Good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to be back with you. I kind of almost feel like we're getting the support group vibe going on here. There's regular contact, and I love the idea of getting to know all of you a little bit more depth. So thank you for inviting me back. Today's presentation on managing stress was very much influenced by feedback from transfer students, right? We wanted to tailor the presentation to particular needs that you have. And as I mentioned in the past, please let's let this be a conversation and a dialogue. So as we go through the presentation, there's particular experiences you want to share, concerns, questions, please just go ahead and share as well for those who are online. I very much welcome them as well. Good, so let's go ahead and start to see what we're going to look at today. So here's some of the main points. We're going to look at this concept of redefining stress. We all know what stress means and we've certainly experienced it. But I want to present to you an alternative perspective on how to understand and view stress. And to that end, we're going to watch a video from Dr. Kelly McGonigal. She is a sports psychologist. And she has a really unique take on understanding stress through a TED Talk. So we'll take a look at that and have some discussion. And then we're going to be addressing some of the common stressors that were communicated to me that transfer students oftentimes have. So for example, waiting to hear from grad schools, waiting at, oh, I remember that time myself very well, it's very stressful. And then what to do if you get a no. If you get some of those rejection letters, how do you take that? The stress that can occur from that. Our worldwide events and the media is a common stressor I think many of us face, and I do have some things I'd like to address around that, and then time management strategies. So as we're looking at all of these things, I do have some suggestions and skills to help you out with that. And then I did want to touch upon campus resources to address a concern about financial related stress. So, okay, great. So yeah, let's go ahead and watch this video. What are your thoughts and reactions to Kelly's redefinition of stress?
So I'll have like two thoughts on it. Well, I think my first thought is just sort of like, I am one of those people who never do like much stress is bad for you, but after like I do what Kelly said, it's kind of made me feel like the opposite in ways. Like maybe stress does feel like it's bad for my health, or like start to think about it, but anyways, that was a side tangent. But my second thought was like, is that why like we have like stress balls from the beginning? Because like all the options made like wanted to like hug something or like grab something. That's why I got stress.
Well, absolutely. With the stress balls, it's helpful because as we have those stress hormones in our body, this is why exercise is a great way to help manage stress. Because when you're tightening and releasing muscles, which you do when you're exercising, it helps speed up those stress hormones in your body. So even something as simple as a stress ball, you're still doing an exercise and you're tightening muscles and releasing it. That I think is also helpful. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Good. Yeah.
That's kind of like what I was thinking about when, so you're still expected to deal with stress, it's just how you respond to it. I know a lot of the time when I get stressed, I have like all of this amped up energy, but like I don't necessarily know what to do with it. But it makes sense, because I've heard people talk about like if they're really stressed out, they'll go for a jog. I don't know if that's the approach I would take, because me and jogging aren't great, but I can understand that, like going to do some like something active to at least give you like almost a restart.
Yes. Yes. Great observation. It's very similar to what we were just talking about. Those stress hormones need a release. And so with the stress response, when it reaches, when those start to build, they actually help you focus. They help you perform better. It's giving you the extra juice that you need. Now, I'm sure we've all been in situations where we feel like that goes overboard, right? Everyone kind of sometimes paralyzing. But this critical element that we can redefine stress in ways that can help us versus hinder us is one of the main concepts of that. But I really want to emphasize this last sentence here of when you choose to connect with others, when you're under that stress response, you create resilience. Again, we are actually neurobiologically wired to connect with one another. That's how our brain is set. We're meant to be in community, not in isolation. And so when we have the ability to connect with other people, especially during those stressful times, it will really help release that hormone and allow you to manage stress better. So that's already one strategy to really think about, particularly as we've got this next half of the semester ahead of us with finals kind of looming on the horizon. So think about your community and who you might want to connect to during this time. Okay. And go to the next one, So this, I wanted to share with you a model that we use, and I think in some of my prior presentations with you all, I've introduced this what we're calling therapy of modality, form of treatment, and it's called cognitive behavioral therapy, and it very much ties in with what Kelly was saying. So in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, the idea is how we perceive the world, the lens by which we view ourselves and others is going to influence how we feel and how we behave. So and that lens by how you see yourself, of course, is influenced by your life experiences, right? Your family, your friends, your growing up experiences, childhood, and all of those things. Now, sometimes that lens by which we define ourselves might not always be accurate. So for example, for somebody who might experience social anxiety, oftentimes one of the immediate thoughts that are part of that lens tends to be negative and judgmental towards themselves. So I often use this example in therapy where, let's say if you have somebody you're walking by and you know them from class and you say hi and they don't say hi back. For some of us, especially those who might struggle with social anxiety, what might be some of the immediate thoughts that come to mind in interpreting that situation?
They're mad at me.
That's right. That's right. Oh my God, what did I do to upset this person? Why didn't they say hi? Did I say something stupid last time we talked? I must have blown it last time we had a conversation. I probably did something yellow. And then you're thinking like, what did I do? And you're replaying it all in your mind's eye, right? Well, same scenario, same situation. Let's say, again, you say hi, and the person doesn't say hi. What could the alternative ways of interpreting that situation that don't have to do with that person being mad? What would be an alternative? Yes.
They didn't notice you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They didn't see you. Maybe they had their AirPods in. Maybe they're stressed out about their next test, etc. What's the likelihood of that scenario happening more than somebody doing that? Probably not. Now, if I had that thought, if I use that interpretation for that scenario, my feeling is probably going to be like, oh, well, it's kind of weird, but whatever. And I'm going to go on and do my work. If I had that first interpretation, I'm going to be anxious, I'm going to be worried, I'm going to be stressed out. It's probably going to affect how I behave. I might not be able to engage in my studies anymore. For the second scenario, where I'm like, well, whatever, I'll just check in with that person next time I see them. Feeling will probably be neutral, it'll be fine, and go on with your day. So notice the strong impact with how we perceive things. So important. Okay, so we're going to do a little exercise here. Our next slide. And so I want to bring it back to some of the concerns that were mentioned to me and some of the stressors that transfer students might be addressing. So let's choose a scenario. Waiting to hear from grad schools or having received a rejection letter. So what I'd like you all to do, if you could, is join up in little groups. Could be a pair, or it could be a group of 3. And I'd like you to choose a scenario, one of those two, and identify the thoughts, the feelings, and the behaviors related to that experience. In particular, notice the narrative. What's the lens by which you're interpreting that? Say you get the rejection letter. Say you're waiting what seems like a really long time. What are you saying to yourself about that scenario? Okay? And then we're going to provide some good validation, some good reflection, and we're going to see if we can create some alternative narratives and try to put this into practice. So in many ways, we're doing what Kelly McGonigal talked about in her talk. We're going to rewrite the story. We're going to see stressful situations in the movie. Okay, so let's just take maybe about 5 minutes. For those online, if you can think about that same scenario and just go it through yourself. What might be some of the ways in which you're narrating that scenario to yourself, identifying thought, feeling, and behavior, and what could be alternative ways. And let's come back to the group. Love to hear, what was that experience like? What did you talk about in your smaller groups? What thoughts, narratives, feelings, and behaviors did you notice come up for members of your group?
16%.
I mean, we were talking about like most disappointment, not being enough, because you put yourself out there, like you're basically trying to display yourself when you do rejection, or when you're like applying for school, so if they don't accept your application, sometimes was I right?
So it has that real kind of personal quality, a sense that there's something lacking in you.
Yeah.
Okay. And what feelings did you notice with those thoughts?
I mean, in rejection, it would be almost a sense of grieving, like where do I go from here?
Yeah, listen. Okay. How about behaviors? If you're having those thoughts and you're having those feelings, how might that affect your behavior?
If I maintain the thought that I wasn't good enough, I probably would be demotivated. I don't know if I would want to do much more to build on that.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Good. Others, I heard some good discussion happening here. I'm excited to hear. What did you all observe?
I don't know, the same thing, you receive a projection letter, you kind of feel disappointed at the point you get it. Also, I think, other people are gonna think you're disappointed, like, especially your family. Again, disappointment to them, myself, and I think you have a future.
So kind of, it's not just the immediate, but it projects into future life. Okay, and feelings?
I mean, you see a projection letter, you're gonna be stressed, like, what do I do from here on out? What does my future look like?
Doubt, perhaps, that is a commitment.
If you're still trying in school.
Yeah. Behaviors that paralyze you, that keep you from doing other things.
Yeah, trying in school, it's like, is it worth it?
Oh,
Probably false.
thank you all for sharing. Yeah. How about you? Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the day, I guess we got that, with the kids, it's called it to include more, the application, like, to include the application and all of that thing.
Yeah. The sense of, not only disappointment, frustration, but maybe you spent all of that time, all that energy, and nothing came of it. Other things from your group?
Yeah, I mean, well, she touched on it, but yeah, we just like said that we'd probably be pretty disappointed because like our daily experience and then like our positive experience. So for me, it's just like trying to like easier way back into finding new opportunity and stuff.
Okay. So notice the commonality, the common themes, right? And then thinking about what Kelly had suggested of how helpful it is for us to connect with each other around shared difficulties. So I just want to highlight that, and everybody in this room seems to really be able to identify with what you all are saying. You know, what would be alternative narratives to the one that says that this is a personal, that this is a personal rejection of you, or that this is going to forever damage your future options? Could be another way of looking at this situation. Yeah.
I think it's asking why you got rejected. I feel like not like being in the unknown is worse, and like spiraling is worse than knowing what happened. Because if you can fix it, then you can have the time to fix it.
And some sense of agency, right?
Yeah,
Do
just to
something.
like give you the opportunity to like find new ways to help yourself.
Beautiful. So notice how what you were saying, remember a little triangle, right? Thought, behavior, feeling. By changing your behavior or adding on behavior. So tell me why I was rejected. What was missing? You're going to start to change the narrative. You're going to start to recognize, oh, maybe there were aspects of my experience that somebody else did have and I just didn't. But I can do something to gain that experience. Right? Nice. Okay. Other possibilities. Other ways of looking at narrative. Yeah.
There's lots of opportunities out there.
Yeah, so just because this one school or these two schools didn't take you, it doesn't mean that there aren't other schools that will.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Sorry, the same thing, and just like, accepting maybe I'm not able to do this, but I want to do it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Anything from the gentleman on that side?
We just got on the recording stuff, it's I had the acceptance or not CTHS, which is sort of like old sheets of fire. If you are able to tell yourself that at this point, you're probably think more optimistic, but.
It doesn't define your worth. That's true. So next time, as you're dealing with stress, one of these stressful situations, I want to encourage you all to take a minute to question, what is your story? What is the narrative that you're telling yourself about this situation? And your emotions related to that narrative make perfect sense. Like in the first scenario, right, when everybody went around, and I think all of us in the room were like, well, sure, of course you felt that way. Yeah, makes perfect sense. But it doesn't mean that the narrative is always true. So the stories we tell ourselves about who we are or our worth or value in the world aren't always true. The narrative we tell and the feelings that come from that make sense, but we've got to examine the narrative. And that's important. Okay.
Can I
Yeah.
say one thing? Cause I'm older than I think about everyone. I think for me too, there's been times where like I didn't get a job I really wanted, and then it turned out that it was not a good job. And so I was like, oh, I dodged a bullet. And so sometimes, you don't usually jump to that conclusion, but I think it is a possibility.
Absolutely. And that's changing the narrative as well, right? Like maybe this was a good thing, but that didn't happen. Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Paul. Let's go on to our next one. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the news cycle because again, it very much ties into the same idea of perception and the story we're saying. So the news cycle is an interesting bit of a beast, is what I like to call it. Because the news cycle is going to focus specifically on all that is going wrong in the world. It's going to focus on crises and it's going to focus on calamity and disasters. Now, that is what grabs our human attention. That's what calls to us, right? Thank you all for coming. And I'm not denying that those things aren't there. They are there, and I think it's important for us to be aware of that. But it's also not all that's happening. So if we think about, it's not the whole pie. So the news cycle is going to tell you a portion of the pie. But guess what? There's millions of people in the world that just went to the supermarket and bought a loaf of bread. And that's all that happened in their day. Does that make the news? No. But does that mean it didn't happen? No, it did. It did. It's just nobody talked about it. But when we are constantly bombarded with crises over and over again, we start to get the perception that that's all that's there. But that's the entirety of the pie. And it's not. Right? Thankfully, it is not. So I want to encourage you all as you're thinking about managing stress, especially related to the news cycle. How are you taking care of bringing that information into your brain? Again, I'm not saying don't watch the news. I'd say, sure, stay informed, but choose wisely and choose how much to expose yourself to. Reminding yourself that there's other pieces to the pie other than what you're seeing on the news. So to that end, I do have another suggestion that I'd like to offer, which is nice news. I don't know if any of you have heard of this. It's something that I get in my email box every day, and I do take the time to look at it. It just talks about good stuff that's happening. That's all it does. It's sort of a counter to the 24-hour news cycle. So it tells you about advancements in science. It tells you about some kind action that some human did for another human or a wonderful organization that helped out a community. It just talks about positive things. It's also part of the plot. So I want to encourage you all to think about what are ways to expand the lens by which you're taking in the news. Yes.
I feel like everyone's on social media a lot, so there's like this bracket of TikTok and it's called Code Board, and it's just like people giving each other like flowers or like really nice things. So I look that up a lot and just like you can just like add positive to it.
How, well, tell me the name again.
It's called Hope Core.
Oh my gosh, I'm adding that to my. That is beautiful. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So we need to be mindful of that. What are we taking into our awareness? I want to also really encourage, kind of as we're talking about social media, to curate your feed. Take a look at what is coming in. Because even though when you're doing that mindless scrolling, those messages that you get from whoever you're following, they do affect us. You know, you might not even notice it immediately, but it's going to influence how you're seeing yourself, what you're defining as important, what is valuable or not. And so I want to encourage you that the thing that often is interesting to me as someone who did not grow up with social media, and I'm looking at perhaps a cohort as well, social media is something I continuously have to learn about. It's certainly not something I knew about growing up. But what I'm amazed by is oftentimes I see with my clients almost like a passivity or like, oh, well, that's just what's on there. Like you have no sense of say over it. But of course you do, right? You get to choose who you follow. So you get to have a filter on what information is coming in. To use that, I encourage that. Very much want to be mindful of, especially as we're looking at good self-care, how much and what you take into in social media and your own mind prior to going to bed. Because oftentimes many of us will do scrolling just before bed, and then that's not only engaging your brain further, but you also might be getting a lot of negative messaging around that. So very important to have no news before bed, trusted sources of information, and turning off notifications. Okay.
Yeah.
I mentioned this in the last workshop, but how important it is to give yourself permission to take care of yourself. To really give yourself permission to sleep well, engage in exercise, connect with others. Those are things that will help you in the long run manage stress. Okay. So in thinking about Kelly McGonigal's messaging around social connection, I want to encourage all of you to again make that effort to spend quality time with loved ones and friends. Such an important part of stress management. Oftentimes, I hear my clients talk about minimizing that, and it's a waste of time. It's not, it really is not. We all need that time to relax, to unwind, let your hair down, and to have fun. Giving yourself permission to do those things is actually going to improve your ability to concentrate on school. So I really want to emphasize that. Okay. So next, I wanted to talk a little bit about time management. So who here in the room has oftentimes struggled with prioritization of tasks? Yeah, it's challenging, somewhat, yeah. It can be a hard thing to know, especially when there's so much to do, right? So much to do. So I just wanted to present the Eisenhower matrix as a tool that might get used to you in trying to decide what to prioritize and how to help you with that. So as you can see, it's a quadrant here. And basically, we have tasks that are important or non-important, and urgent or not urgent. So in this quadrant, what you can start to do, and I have the steps delineated on the slide there, you can start to look at identifying, if you have this list of tasks, which of these tasks are important and urgent. And those you're going to put in the top right-hand corner. Those will be your next steps. It can be hard when you have this long list, right, of tasks to do, if that's where the overwhelm comes. You're like, oh, God, we gotta do this all the time. Well, the reality is that probably not everything on your to-do list has to get done by tomorrow. Right, so this is where we need to learn how to prioritize things. So as you look at what would go into each of the quadrants, you want to emphasize those things that are important and urgent. And then you can break it down from there. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to figure out how to do that. I'm so glad I have my helper here. Thank you. And if you're trying to figure out, like, I don't know where this one task might lie in the quadrant, you can rate them. So you can rate each task between -5 and +5 for importance. +5 being the most important, to help you figure out how to do that. So if we look at prioritization, what would you all say are some of the stumbling blocks for you? What do you, where might you get caught in that? Yeah.
I think my issue for me is like when there's urgency in my school stuff and there's urgency in my work stuff, and then it's like.
How do you struggle with both of those?
Yes, and then it tends to be like all of my school because my grade and but out there I saw the issue, but then I also switched it back because I still did it.
Right, yeah, it's hard to do all of those obligations. Yeah.
For me, I'll have something where like, I'll have a bunch of urgent tasks, but it's really, really important one, but because it doesn't have a deadline, I'll just keep pushing. But then it really starts to bother me because I haven't done it yet. Yet there's not been a release in like the urgent tasks, so I'm even though this is driving me crazy, I can't get to it yet. I think that's where my biggest stress is figuring out that look, do I just have to power through and do the important one over the urgent one?
Right, right. Well, because then it sounds like if you did that, it might free you up to do the other tasks more efficiently.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you mentioned an important part there, again, kind of goes back to that reframing, giving yourself permission to just do it, right? Or hear yourself to do it. Yeah. Any other comments about prioritization? Yeah.
I feel like sometimes everything can be private, but then you're like, no, it's really good. So
That's exactly it. That's what I wanted to show you all there. Yeah, you can. Yeah, and as I think too, as things sort of pile up for us, everything starts to feel like a crisis. You know, feel like, no, I'm getting hard. And another. Okay, yeah, so take a look at the Eisenhower matrix, and deadlines are critical to helping with that prioritization, figuring out what deadline is when, that can help with that. Okay. Good. In the last couple of slides, I wanted to give a stress response plan that can be useful to think about. Oftentimes, we need, if we can catch the warning signs when we're not doing well and intervene earlier on, it really can help things out. So, like, for those here in the room and or online, how do you know that you're not doing well with stress? What are some of your warning signs? Yeah,
I think for me, when I started seeing like double-digit numbers on my phone inbox, my canvas, my text messages, and then losing sleep.
okay, good awareness, good awareness. Yeah, other warning signs. Yeah,
I feel like I feel like I feel it like mentally, cause like I feel like I'm just like very clouded, like focus as well as like I normally do, but like I'm like super stressed out, like in crisis mode.
yeah, maybe a little bit like brain fog, you know, that's what I like, yeah, difficulty of thinking clearly. Yeah, okay, good awareness, yeah.
No matter how much sleep I get, it doesn't feel like it's enough.
Okay, yeah, fatigue. Yeah, okay. So again, the more that you can be aware, like, I'm noticing the double digits and I'm noticing I'm not sleeping, you know, the fatigue, the brain fog. So let's also talk some strategies that people already have. So what are some things that you have noticed that work well for you all in managing stress? What are things you do now that you think are beneficial? Yeah.
I clean my space, like I feel like my space is like clean and it's clean, so I like when I clean my space, even just get out of it.
Love that, and so can relate to that saying, yeah. And by space, you mean like your living space, your workspace, both,
Probably more living,
or
just why
living.
I feel like I have a place I can go.
I often for myself, I don't know if you can relate to this, but I feel like my outside world, like environment is more in order, not to be sticker stamp, but more in order internally, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, good thing to know, right? Yeah. Other strategies for stress?
I think, at least from my experience, I would just take a break from what we doing just for a couple of minutes or so, and then see, and like check in with myself, see like, continue like doing the task for like whatever, or finding the reason I'm like stressed out in a way, and then to see if I could take maybe a longer break, and then I can get back to it.
Love that checking in with yourself, that is awesome. That's again, that awareness, you can then make a decision based on that awareness. I love that. Do you have any suggestions of like short-term breaks, like what you do in those couple minutes?
At least from my experience, I just normally, I just always just like get off my chair, because I'm usually on the computer, so I use that sound at the time, and, you know, just get off my chair, just have a couple like steps, like back and forth.
Love it, we're getting up, change the location, get the body moving a little bit. Awesome. Were you gonna share?
Oh, yeah, kind of, like my student, I like talk with like the student success coach, especially being there, like Lonnie and stuff, and like before like I get down to like to assignment do my homework, like I make sure that like I be in and like that I clean my space and like I'll just like all this skip the assignments like late at night, like once I get home, so that I can actually like focus and those things rather than just like check, because they're just like, oh, I have to do this and this, but I'm gonna do my homework and then like just scatter it, but like then you're thinking about cleaning your room and making things.
Yeah, okay, so when, but it sounds like the cleaning of your room, having your space organized, you know, well, together, be able to do that. Awesome, love it. Anything else? Yeah.
I think for me, sometimes I feel like some of my tasks are like, I can do them, but they just take a really long time to accomplish, and sometimes I just need a win. And so I'll like put that aside and I'll just do like, if it's just a response to the email that I've been neglecting it for so long, I'll just respond like, okay, he's one thing.
I love
And then
that.
I like, we'll go back, and then if I feel like, oh, I'm not close to done, then I'll do it again. So that way I'm like, I'm still checking stuff off, but I'm giving myself a reward system by being like, yeah, I'm like still accomplishing things. But I just need a little self, like, okay, taking stuff off my list while I'm like finishing the reading part of the house.
Brilliant, love that, I love that. What a nice way to balance out those two feelings, right? A sense of accomplishment with, I still have a lot to do, but I have a sense of accomplishment, you know? I feel the same way by making my bed in the morning. I make my bed every morning. And that's just me, I'm just like,
I just like throw everything like that's.
for me, it's the same idea, I've accomplished something, and it's 6 in the morning. Oh, yeah, here we go. All right,
She has a,
oh, yes.
Sorry, I've also just noticed like when it's nice outside, if I can just go outside for just a minute, like I'm good. Everything's fine.
Yeah, you're the fresh air,
Yeah.
feeling the space around you.
Yeah.
Love that, great. All right, y'all, I think the last slide is just another, so actually many of the things that we talked about already. So tidying the workspace, daily to-do list the night before. Oh, I really wanna, point out this, it goes to that sense of accomplishment of reviewing the items that you have done. We call it the credit list. Because we're so, I mentioned this in our last workshop, but we're so keen on the to-do list that we don't go through the, oh, look at all that I did do today. That's so important. The to-do list is always there and never fresh. Do you have?
That's literally my like, so I was thinking of like all the stress management. I write down my thoughts because when I get stressed out, I just have 1,000 thoughts and I got this from Paul. So I don't know. I think it's because I literally just write down sporadic stuff. Like there's no theme here. Just everything.
I love that.
I have like several to-do lists that I've gone through and I'm like, oh, okay, I actually did a lot today. Okay, I can be nice now.
So nice, so nice. Again, this is what we focus on, right? So what you focus on will impact how you feel. And you look at your accomplishments and you're like, okay, yeah, did you there? And look at what I got. Yes.
Taking something and writing random letters.
Taking something and writing random letters. Yeah, there you go. That can be good too. Maybe drawing can be fun. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, you all, I think that is it. Oh, just briefly about this, you all might be aware of it, but the Financial Wellness Center, I just want to mention that as a campus resource, because I know one of the themes that was brought to my attention was financial stress and the concerns and the many demands, right, that we all have with finances. And I think the Financial Wellness Center often gets overlooked as a really great resource. And so they can sit down with you, help you look at budgets, and look at what your income is. I think they do have access to a lot of financial support systems, financial aid referrals. So just want to mention that to the group because I think that can be a good source.
I agree.
So, okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much for inviting me back. And I look forward to being able to see you all again. Yeah.
Thank you.